I am not that.
We're live. This is what you're in for, everyone.
I'm not that. I'm not that professional, Joey. Here we are. We're live. We're having a great time today. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Work Should Feel Good, the show where your career growth meets your real life. I'm your host, Diana Alt, and today my friend Joey Senart and I are going to discuss what happens when you stop trying to cast a wide net in your career and job search and instead start being brave enough to specialize. Joey is a self proclaimed strategic combo platter who has blended marketing, training, and design experience to help businesses ranging in size from small little businesses up to Fortune 100 enterprises. He's made a name for himself by adapting to reality, embracing hard truths, and pushing through politics to get things done. Welcome to the show, Mr. Senart. How are you
I'm
today?
glad you said my name right. Thank you for saying my last name right.
How is that hard to say?
Senart, Snart,
Oh, Snart. You're going to be Snart from now on.
Snart. There was a time where I calculated 36 different ways that people were pronouncing my name.
And I'm like hooked on phonics word.
Senart is the most common, followed by Senate, which I don't know. They just don't look at the letters.
I could see that. I get Diana, Deanna, Diane, Deanne, Dana, like all the things. I got Dorothy once. I'm like, how did you get to Dorothy? I try really hard to get people's names right. So I want to start off in an area you might not be expecting me to go, and that is how leading things in gaming has helped your career or kind of just complemented your career, maybe is a way to think about it.
How leading things in gaming?
Yeah, because you used to lead, you kind of led a community around a game whose name I cannot remember, but I remember you being very active in that.
The Flesh and Blood card game.
Yeah.
PCG. Led towards career stuff. Wow. All right. It's funny because I remember seeing on LinkedIn, this was a couple years ago, of like CEOs were talking about how much value came from being a clan leader in World of Warcraft.
Oh, right.
It was honestly kind of inspiring for me. Not that I was like, oh well, I'm going to go run a community for a game and I'll be a CEO someday. You can tell by how I talk, I will never be a CEO of a company. But no, I think when it comes to that, so for everybody, just quick context. I'm a nerd, and I was a part of I helped build a community for a card game called Flesh and Blood. Building a community here means going to local game stores, local game shops, coffee shops, finding opportunities to host events, pull events, doing learn to play events, so that way new gamers can explore the game and decide if they want to keep coming back for these things. Cool. Working with stores on organized play schedules, so this store is going to go on Monday nights, this store is going to go on Wednesday. All of these things I can say is because I just wanted to play a game with a bunch of people. But those skills are project management, event management, a lot of communication with professionals, a lot of learning the ins and outs of a different industry, just so I know how to talk to them, to be like, hey, can you order this game? Can you? So there's all that, and then there's all of the community management that comes with it as well. I've done marketing and training, so it's educating new people, it's educating people who want to run those events. There's a lot of these little extra skills that come when you're a nerd. You don't realize you're doing. I was talking with somebody last night about how we don't translate the work that we do into things that are more attractive for bigger efforts. Like when I could say, yeah, I went to a game store and I hosted a learn to play and I showed a bunch of people how to play a game. That's event coordination. That's project management. That's training and development. That's all of these things that translate nicely in a resume.
Well, and it also was marketing too. I love that kind of stuff because a lot of the people that I work with are in tech, and especially for software engineers, for a long time, there's been a lot of people, especially very old school engineering managers, that would ask anybody that was a candidate for an engineering role, what do they code in their off time? Which I don't love that, because I think people should be able to do other things other than their primary work. But I also understand the sentiment that if you show me that you're interested in learning outside your 8 to 5 time frame, that is a good thing, especially in tech fields where it's hard to keep up. So
maybe honestly, like we'll do a sequel podcast called "Not Working Should Also Feel Good."
I'm gonna write that down, Diane. Not working should also feel good. That's a really excellent point, Joey, because a lot of times people I talk a lot about the reasons that work makes life not feel good, and a lot of times it's that there's no time for life left, but the mental strain or the pressure to constantly keep up outside the office can really be onerous. I think people should be willing to do it, but
there's that whole adage, right, of if you like your job, then it shouldn't feel like you're at work or whatever it is. I think however in the world that goes, I think that really only applies to if you like what you do, doing it in the off hours doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Like I loved doing the project management, the events. I loved building that Flesh and Blood community. I loved like designing like cool little things and little stories. And when I did some content creation, I loved doing that stuff. I could say that is me polishing my skills and embracing a passion and educating myself and practicing for the purposes of getting a better job. But I was just having so much fun with it. It didn't feel like that's what I was doing.
I love that. And I actually have had trouble maintaining the right work-life balance because of stuff like that. Because when I was in corporate, I was in product management for 17 years, towards the end of my career. And I was a scrum master for a while too. I did all the things in software development. And when I started coaching, I was coaching and doing different sorts of, side hustle training and things like that. It felt like I was working 7 days a week on one hand if I looked at the calendar, but I was having fun with that side stuff. Going into working for myself full time, it was very hard to break working 7 days a week. Like, oh, I don't have to do that because I don't have to work coaching around a full-time job anymore. Coaching and running a coaching business is the job. So
yeah, I mean, I think for something like that to roll it into the topic that we're going to go on is if I'm working towards some sort of feeling of accomplishment, then cool. If I'm just training for the sake, and this is maybe just a me thing. If I'm training for the sake of training, it feels more like an obligation, less like a hobby, less like a passion.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just a gamble that it's going to mean something down the road. So like for me, again, to kind of bring to the topic of this, I spent time in my off hours learning the daylights out of a technology, which was Braze, so I can get certifications. And I did that on my off time because I knew that was going to help me I knew that was going to look really good. But I also had that accomplishment of I got certified and that felt good. And that's all that it led to. I do not care at all that I know Braze better. I don't care. And as somebody who's worked in training for 10 years, nobody cares that they know something better. Nobody's ever cared that they know something better. They point to a milestone. They lean in on something that they can show. Very specific, very tangible, very not philosophical.
Right.
And for me, that's if I'm going to do any of this like off hours, passion project kind of stuff, that's where it has to lead to.
Yeah.
I ran a successful event, 8 people showed up. I put out a video that people really enjoyed. I did this. I got to do some of this for me. That isn't just the gamble of maybe it'll pay off later. Oh, you're just going to burn yourself out.
I get so, I get very salty about addiction to certifications.
Around what?
The addiction to certifications.
Yeah.
People have in tech, product, marketing, anybody in academia, they're all chasing like these antlers, like whatever the heck they are. And every industry is different. But the spaces that I've worked in personally, and the spaces that most of my clients work, the certification is maybe the thing if there's 20 qualified people and I have to narrow it down to 10 for the first round of interviews, like maybe that'll help, but it's not going to overtake the fact that somebody that's uncertified has impressive results to share on their resume. And the farther along you go in hiring, like It's what can you do with it is more important than certs.
That's gonna be one of those, like, I don't know if I've shared the same experience, because the whole point of my experience was I had the impressive results. I have an impressive resume. I'm very proud of. I've gotten to work for eBay. I've had PayPal as a client, American Airlines, Southwest Airlines. I had all these big things along with 15 years of experience. And I put that out into the world when I was trying to get a job, 2023, 2022, 2020, like the last couple of years. And I couldn't get in the door at all. So for me, all of that stuff that you were just talking about, it was great after I got in the door. It was phenomenal. Like if I got to be a part of that 20, everyone else is in trouble. But getting to be a part of that 20, that's where the certification really helped me.
Okay. So different industries are different ways too.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about like what I have experienced, especially with some of the things that are not technical certifications.
Mm-hmm.
A PMP is one that comes up all the time.
For sure.
Do you need a PMP? Well, literally in the government, you might. If you're trying to get on at a government contractor, you might. Literally nobody runs a project like the PMP tells you to run a project. So it's less
like agile. Nobody runs agile properly.
No. Yeah, having spent many years in it, no. Okay,
we're an agile company, and then you ask about story points. They're like, "What's that?" Like, you really didn't do agile, did you?
Depends on what framework you're talking about. Like, I could talk about that all day.
Semantics, Diana.
Well, it comes.
Are we doing DevOps? Are we doing? There's a whole bunch of whatever, a whole bunch of shenanigans with agile. Yeah, I've never seen it done.
That's a rabbit trail for another day. That might be a topic for the After 5 podcast we were saying that we needed to have with a cocktail or two. So let's go back to, there was a period where I first met you in like a very wild instructional design group on Facebook. That's where you and I ran into each other. Yes. And I think we were just both salty bitches in the comments a lot. And then
that is definitely how we connected. It had to have been something snarky. I couldn't tell you what it was. But it was putting people in their place.
It was in that group, which I had poked into because I've kind of my work has been adjacent in tech and L&D because I worked in ed tech and a few other things, and we connected on that. But I remember for you, there was a period where you were trying to be a generalist. So let's talk about like when you were, I'll take marketing or I'll take training. What kind of phase were you in your career? How did that work out for you? And why were you pursuing your career in that manner?
All right. So we're going to go through a very quick, how did my career turn into what it was in the first place?
Okay.
So I started out as I'm a retail 10-year retail tour duty. Is usually how I put it. And then after that, I had the opportunity to work for what I call adult retail, which is a call center. It's the same drama and crap, but everyone's older.
Yeah.
But that company ended up being Constant Contact, which some of you might be familiar with as it's targeted for small businesses, but they're a marketing platform, email marketing primarily. So I did call center work for them. That swings me a little bit into marketing. Now I have a graphic design degree. I don't use it, but with it came a little bit of marketing education. And I did kind of fall in love with that space. Didn't mean much.
Design or marketing?
Huh?
What did you fall in love with?
I fell in love with the marketing side.
Okay.
I only got to take like 1 or 2 truly marketing courses in graphic. It was the Art Institute, so that bar was really low for useful things.
Yeah.
And now they're not a thing anymore because I was part of that nightmare. Anyway, so I ended up doing a call center work for Constant Contact. I didn't really care that it was marketing. I just cared that it wasn't retail, but that did get me into looking a little bit on the marketing side, helping people through their email campaigns, not just how to build them, which was what my real job was, but they also focused a lot on what they called know-how, which was us being proactive to callers and saying, hey, we know some best practices that could help you.
Ooh. Did you freeze, Joey?
Uh-oh. Are we back?
There you go. I think we are. There was a in the matrix for a minute. So
little glitch in the matrix.
I love.
So while I was doing call center work, I eventually was able to get a job in. I ended up getting a job in training because I got really good at explaining very complicated things in very simple ways. So they said, "How would you like to make not enough money and do that full time?" And I, being young and dumb, said, "I would love to make not enough money and do training full time." So that got me into training. That is what ultimately got me looking up the chain into kind of more of the corporate side of things. And that was my introduction into corporate America. I was very bad at it. I got let go from that job in 4 months because I did not know how to communicate in that direction. I knew how to communicate to customers and everything's on fire.
Oh, but not internally.
Not internally, the other direction. So I really did not know what my lane was. Could not stay in it. But I had a friend who moved over to eBay Enterprise, which was a marketing agency arm of eBay at the time.
Okay.
It was like, "Hey, you rock the living daylights out of email, and that's all that I care about. Like, you know, systems, you can be an awesome support person." So I moved into eBay as a marketing support tech. And that's where I started working with eBay and PayPal. eBay was my own client also. And PayPal and American, Disney and Marvel and all these really cool companies. And I got really comfortable I got more comfortable talking to those higher ups, those bigger groups.
Mhm.
But that's what really launched me into marketing. From that, I also discovered, hey, I still have a knack for training. Because when you're supporting a marketing platform, you have to educate your clients on how to use that platform, or you're the one who's getting all that work. You're the one getting support tickets. You're the one working way too much.
Yes.
So I ended up just instinctively balancing my marketing and training career, moved over into Epsilon right afterwards. That was a pure training job for a marketing platform. So I basically shifted right back to what I was doing in Constant Contact, doing training for a marketing platform. And then in 2019, this is where we actually get to where we are now.
Yeah.
2019, I was about 3.5 years in to that job, and they got bought. And I was told, you have no career growth for 2.5 years, like the end. And after 3.5 years with not really a lot of career growth, I was like, hey, it's kind of my time. And then they're told you're waiting for 2 years. That sucks. So that's kind of when I was like, all right, well, what could I do with my career if I just skipped this thing? So I went out and I tried a bunch of different stuff. I got to work for Salesforce. I worked for a company called OrgView. I worked for a bunch of little companies.
Were you doing mostly contract? You were doing
contract.
Okay.
But yeah. Well, it was a blend of contract and some not. But some things didn't work. I just tried to feel out what my career was going to be. Did I want to do marketing? Did I want to do training? Did I want to do more creation stuff like what I do now? Or did I want to work my way up into like people management and director? And I got opportunities to be managers, people manager. Right now I do a lot of like marketing automation manager, which is much more production side.
Yeah.
So I spent 5 years bouncing around to a lot of different places, figuring out what do I want, what do I care about, what do I actually find fulfillment in.
Yes.
And that's where we got into generalist. I could do marketing, I could do training. I had a ton of experience in both. I had a ton of great clients behind me in both sides of that coin. Like I was doing training for Hot Topic. I was doing training for Walgreens. I helped Dunkin' Donuts build their loyalty program that is still in effect today, just as a natural part of my job. So I had some really cool things. So I figured I can go either direction.
Yeah.
Hard. I had 2 different resumes. I had a marketing resume and a design resume. My LinkedIn's one feed.
There's a whole lot of people that are trying to do that, and they're trying to work it on one resume, and they are landing nothing in either role. So
yeah, so I had those split up. I had different kind of generic cover letters for each. My LinkedIn was still a cluster of madness, and that's kind of what leads to today's point. Our kind of the big revelation with it, and it just got really hard. Damn near impossible, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's where the term strategic combo platter came in, which was cute, I think, back in a day where COVID wasn't a thing, where remote work wasn't as common.
Yeah.
But now all it is that I checked off too many boxes and I look like I was just job hopping, and I'm not passionate about either one. And
really what you were doing was career experimentation.
Yeah. And that's usually how I explain it, is I wanted to figure out what was important to me, what was most important to me? Was it culture? Was it the type of work? Was it security? Was it money? And I eventually was able to figure out all of that. Huh?
What of those things did you figure out? Because I know you landed on marketing. I know you landed on a Braze specialization. But I also know just from chats you and I had over time, that wasn't all about that. There was a lot of figuring out what didn't work. There was figuring out what lit you up. Tell us a little bit about some of that.
So I love this one because there's always those questions on what is most important to you. And usually it's a drop down menu of like, is it job security? Is it's like in Workday, it's what wakes you up in the morning. And the answer to that is always not having to apply on Workday.
Yes.
But you get options of culture, collaboration, job security, money, benefits, things like that. You get that list. But there's one option that's not there. And that's what I actually learned is what is important to me.
What is it?
Which is trust.
Oh.
Ingrained trust.
Yes.
You can fake that and pretend it's collaboration. It's not. Same with job security. It's not. I learned over the course of my career that one, I just liked creating things. Like I said, I tried people management and all this stuff. I just liked creating things. I just want to do, I am very outside of the box. It's just how I think. I think, when you're a trainer for a platform, your job is to know the technology better than anyone is ever going to use it. Because you need to train them into using it that way. So with that, I got really good at coming up with crafty solutions for things. Being a gamer, you also come up with crafty solutions for things. So it's just ingrained in my being. But with that, with something like that comes a lot of trust that I can do that stuff. I loved shocking the system. I loved being like, I loved hearing, we've tried this and it didn't work. Oh, give me 2 weeks. The first week I'm going to fix it. And the second week you're going to wonder how I did it so fast. Loved it. But in order to make that work, trust was vital because it breaks everything else down. If you don't have it, if my bosses didn't trust me, I just got slaughtered. No matter how good the project was, no matter how much I can prove through metrics. And I had some of the worst experiences in my life that I'm still recovering from because there was not that trust. So that is the number one thing. Let me be a badass and then trust them.
Honestly, if they added that to the list in Workday, they would quickly find out that becomes one of their top 2 or 3 answers. Because a lot of the people I'm working mostly with people that are high performers mid-career, like usually like mid-30s to late 40s, early 50s, that peak earning, peak growth kind of time frame. But also during that time frame is the pivot from I'm just chasing climbing up the ladder or I'm just chasing money into I want to do well on that, but I also want fulfillment and I would like to watch my kids grow up. Or
one of the big things from the instructional designer group when you and I were in it was teachers moving to instructional designers because COVID knocked so many of them out.
Yep.
So it's like, how do I do this? And this led to the smorgasbord of insanity. That is another podcast.
I feel like that actually would be a fun podcast. There we go.
You'll have to get Tom McDowell to talk about that one. He can speak a lot more insight. I will just be cynical and mean.
Oh, okay.
Part of what I discovered in the 5 years of experimenting in marketing, training, and all that stuff was how much I just did not fit into the learning and development culture.
I have a lot of friends that are in learning and development, and talent development. Like one of the first clients or first guests that I had for the show was in that space. He and I have been friends for 5 years. I've worked with a lot of clients that are in L&D, but there is definitely some toxicity in there. And I don't see it as much at the leadership levels. Like a lot of the people, I know a lot of very good like directors and whatnot, but I got to tell you, the number of people that thought I taught 3rd grade, so I should be able to walk in and not just learn how to be an instructional designer, but walk in and manage the team was
sounds about right.
refreshing. And I'm like, your ability to follow the Colorado state standards for second grade and developing curriculum is fantastic. I'm glad you have that. That is not the same as figuring out how to develop a whole entire curriculum and design it and build it in what the hell ever tool, and manage all the personalities and the C-suite that wants to know the ROI because they're threatening to cut the project every 3 months or whatever. So
As well as the fact that your team has no clue how to calculate ROI. Nobody cares.
yeah.
I will say this to anybody who's looking to L&D, and this is dark and I don't care. L&D is easy money if you have a high tolerance for mediocrity.
Ooh.
If you can handle mediocrity, if you can handle doing your job just enough so you can fake it to people who think they're smart about its results and effects and how it impacts the business, you're going to be great. You're going to be phenomenal.
There's
also, find a better hobby
doing that. Like there's a lot of unhappy L&D people doing that, and then there's mediocrity in every job. But
I think one of the things that I struggle with most with L&D is that results and value is completely subjective. And there's not, and this is one of the things I've had every time I've talked about L&D specifically. One of the biggest struggles that people have is, what exactly does success look like? And then you get into these really generic terms. People are educated, customer satisfaction is up, but you never get into metrics. You never get into feature adoption. You never get into things of like change management, stuff that would matter. Onboarding training. Well, what is the average lifespan of an employee who has taken my training versus somebody who hasn't?
Yeah.
How does that affect cost?
I talk to people about all the time, and I'm like, for the people that are in L&D, if they can speak to that, especially if they're trying to be a senior manager, director, VP, like if you are not talking about that on your resume, in your interviews, on your LinkedIn, every time you open your mouth, you're not going to be taken seriously by the caliber of organization that you actually want to go to.
Yeah, and the thing is, L&D never got themselves into appreciating the downstream effects of what it is they do, and that is a damn travesty, honestly. The amount of money. So when I was at Constant Contact, one of the things I learned was training is one of the first departments on the chopping block because it doesn't bring in revenue. Yeah. However, it preserves it. And that's very difficult to respect when times are tough, right?
Yes.
It's like we need to fill the coffers. And all that we can say is like we prevent them from depleting.
And also people are saying that, but L&D is so often very siloed that don't have the conversations with customer success or account management to prove that out. Like they have a sense from the feedback that they should be, helping increase retention on your SaaS product or whatnot, but there are not the kind of relationships that need to happen between like client success and L&D to actually prove that out.
Yeah, and I think I'm blessed that I was able to start my training career at Constant Contact because we also did in-person training, which meant that we had to schedule with support ops to talk about how many people are we taking off the phone at any given time.
Yeah.
And then we're also working with those teams of how many tickets have been generated based off of, with like a new release that came out. And did we see those reduce, or was the time to finish those tickets? Like, was there fewer touches? Were the minutes per call reduced for people who went through our training? Like we got tangible metrics that I could absolutely react to and then get my mind ingrained in, this is how this helps the business.
Yeah.
I just don't see any of that.
It happens in some places and it doesn't happen in others. But I want to turn to the world of email marketing.
Yeah, let's get back on task.
That's fine. We're good. I love email marketing. I'm not the expert that you are, but I've enjoyed it for over 10 years. I started off in that space because I somehow wandered over into working for a digital marketing agency as an account manager, which had a lot of project management to it. And I'm a nerd. I just want to learn what I'm talking about because my clients are going to ask me. And it's now one of my favorite parts of my business, which I don't do anything like, Fortune 100 companies are going to do. I do it like Diana does it. But what drew you to email marketing? And then what ended up dialing you into Braze? Because you said that focus ended up yielding crazy results in your career, which we'll get to in a minute. But I'm just trying to walk through, like, how did you land on email marketing? How did you land on Braze?
So landing on email marketing specifically was working at Constant Contact. They were an email marketing company. I'd be lying if I said I did my research and then picked that this one was the best. No, I ended up getting really good at email marketing just naturally.
Yeah.
I also, when I went to school for graphic design, I started with multimedia and web. Tried that for 2 years and learned that people who are looking for multimedia and web would rather have somebody with a graphic design degree. I was like, that tracked. Nobody, no business gave two craps about whether or not you can write good code if it still looks like garbage. So graphic design is, I shifted over graphic design, but I knew HTML, so I knew the foundation of email. So it was also easy to just like, well, I know half of how this works.
Yeah.
But over time, so I started email marketing about 15 years ago.
Okay.
Email marketing has always been a roller coaster, and
Yes.
it has always survived. It is one of the very few marketing mediums that sticks around.
Yes.
And there's a very fun reason for that. And this is why I've actually kind of fallen in love with it.
Oh, I want to hear your take on this because I follow a few people that are in more of the entrepreneurial email marketing space. What's your take on that?
Okay.
What's making it?
So first off, email marketing has always been a roller coaster, and it's always been a roller coaster anytime some new technology comes along. Social media was supposed to be the end of email marketing. It wasn't. Then you get into like your TikTok and your Instagram, it wasn't like Facebook social feeds. Now it was like videos and viral videos. And that was supposed to be the end of email marketing, and it wasn't. And then you get into like mobile devices and all that.
Yes.
Supposed to be the end of email marketing, and it wasn't. And the reason that it wasn't is a lot less philosophical than you might think, at least in my opinion. But I think I can make a damn good case for it. Of every marketing channel that exists out in the world, email marketing is the only one where customers ask me to talk to them.
Yes.
It is the only channel that I have a personal invitation to your curated inbox.
Yes.
And that is why email keeps winning. That is why email keeps sticking around.
Yeah.
Now, it will probably not overtake. Like, you're never going to have a viral email unless you do something very wrong. Which is not always the best, but it is always going to work in conjunction. So email marketing, when we say this, I'm going to add this, and then I will get into how I shifted my focus. Email marketing is often also just seen as I send you an email and you see it. But email marketing is actually, there's an element of it called life cycle. And that is the long game. That is the acquiring you and nurturing the relationship and getting you to buy or to convert, whatever that is, buy something, like my page, whatever. Engaging afterwards, and engaging after you've already bought the thing and are not interested in buying again, but staying at the top of your radar.
Yes.
And then retention. It's this long relationship. Email gets to manage that because it's not like I get to react to exactly what you've done, and I get to do it on my timeline, not yours. I get to do it in your email based off of what I've actually seen you do, not, gosh, I hope you see me in your newsfeed randomly.
Right.
I know where I'm going. And that's, I think, one of the things that is the most fun about it is building that long relationship and taking those metrics and being like, how do I adjust little things here and there? The other nice part about email is that it's a page of things, and I can play with little pieces of it. I can play with little modules. So there's this big puzzle that you get to put together.
It's interesting because I remember that when I was in the digital marketing agency, my first client was Moen, like the faucets and showers and whatnot people. And we had like, honestly, it was probably over engineered, especially for 2012 when I was working there. But it had highly personalized, highly customized, segmented stuff, but then they didn't email often enough. So, what are you going to do? And it's really interesting to learn about the pieces and parts and how they decided the order and what all information they gathered from the clients and their data sources and whatnot. But now I'm on the exact opposite end where
email has really gotten to shine is that it's starting to work with those other mediums.
yes,
Not competing, which you don't really get to do with those other mediums as well. You're either on Facebook, you're on Instagram, or you're on TikTok, and that's the space you have on your phone.
right.
Email's like always there, and I can work in conjunction with those.
Yes.
And you're like, hey, we're going to do a multi-channel and omni-channel offer, but this is the one you're going to see after you're done swiping through the rest of them.
Well, this is the one that
There's also a really good
email is the one, or for people that are really into SMS, email and SMS are the ones that every other thing should lead to. So
I'll be a little iffy on SMS just because it's really expensive and there's a lot of weird legality with some of that stuff, but
yeah,
it's still good.
That's why I said maybe. But everybody has a phone, so everybody gets text. That's my point. Everybody, you got to have an email to sign up for all the things. So, you could drop your TikTok account, but you're not going to drop, you're never going to fully get rid of the email in the world that we live in. So what led you to Braze? Because, when you and I chatted about you coming on the show, you said, yeah, I narrowed down from being strategic combo platter. I do training, I do marketing, I hit every industry, I can work in any technology, down into email marketing for Braze, and it made the difference. What made you choose Braze? Is it better because it was handy, or what was it?
No, actually, it's because partly it's because it was new.
Okay.
But I also ended up, as part of my doing training, as part of my contracts world, one of the companies I worked for was Braze. I was their lead platform instructional designer. So I was in charge of actually building the training to get people how to use the platform. I showed up at the wrong time, so my tenure there was short. They were going to IPO. They did not care about people learning how to use the platform. They just cared about value. So I didn't really belong. Wrong time. But I did recognize that it was a new technology, and they were getting a lot of traction on things. So I had a period of unemployment I was unemployed for 10 months in 2023.
Fully unemployed, no contracts, or was it partial employment? Like, what did it look like?
Friend contracts. I was able to get a couple little projects to help pay the bills, but like we had I was selling things, and like we took a personal loan to survive, and unemployment got we did everything we could just to buy time.
Right.
I was able to buy time and got out of it. But during that time, this is the year the job market just sucked. It felt very much like AI was taking over the recruiting processes, and it felt like it was just. It still feels a little like it's impossible. You find your dream job, and within 5 minutes of the posting, there are 200 applications, and it's just like, ugh. And
that's not how that works, but I understand the discouragement.
So. Yeah, regardless of what is actually happening, me on LinkedIn viewing that job sees posted 5 minutes ago, 150 applicants.
Yes.
That's all I can react to.
Yeah.
But anyway, during that time, I really leveraged pretty hard. I've got 15 years of marketing. I've got 10 years of training. That should be great. I should be fine. I've got all these big companies on my resume. I should have no problem getting picked up. Awful, bad approach to that. I learned that the hard way. Again, I think there was a time. But when everything seems very flooded, everybody has access to every job, remote just basically means the world gets to see things, and it's hard to cut through the clutter.
And marketing is a second thing cut. No, third. L&D gets cut first.
Marketing second.
And then marketing in quick succession. When everything, unless there is a clear tie to the role and new revenue, to your point earlier.
Yeah, so, I mean, so I'd be lying if I said that there weren't opportunities. There were a ton. There was a ton. I mean, during COVID, the L&D space, instructional design, blew up. There was so much money to be made during that time. And I didn't have any issues finding good marketing positions. I didn't. But I did lean a lot on, I was going to have, all of my experience was just going to get me through to that interview process. And I put in 15 years of experience in email marketing. And I put in all of these different, here's the platforms that I've used. I've used Agility Harmony. I've used Precision Central, Constant Contact, MailChimp, Iterable, Klaviyo, Braze. I threw all of them into this smorgasbord of I've got everything. And it didn't really help me at all. Diana, I don't really care. I'm gonna say this knowing that I don't care about the technical piece of this. If I'm going to whip together a resume, which I know AI was just the big thing, those are all words that are going to show up on a resume that I can just be thrown out into the ether. And I felt like that was ultimately what I was competing against. There was a point where I stopped appreciating that I am using my talent, like I'm being graded on my talents, and I was being graded on my keywords. That's where I think it struggled a lot. Why my experience didn't matter. Why saying strategic combo platter meant nothing. Nobody's searching for strategic or combo or platter. The cute, fun, crafty ways that I can talk about myself, they're great when I get through the door.
They're not great.
We're not looking for those. And putting everything out also, I don't think really helped me stand out in front of anything else.
It doesn't. And like, speaking as a career coach and a resume expert, those things don't. And I work a lot, when I work with a certain set of people, we actually literally get to remove the names of tech. Talk about classifications. I know direct response marketing. I know email marketing. I know social marketing. You don't even have to talk about the platforms you work with or anything, because you're going to be a VP of marketing and they need to know that you can be omnichannel. Yep. That's not the case ever with a marketing automations expert.
Yep. Or anything development.
Yeah. Same thing. But they don't need to know all of it. And that's the thing that I talk to people about. Like, if they say that they use Braze, then what you do is you put Braze and then maybe like one or two others so that they know, oh, well, this is not the only email that, like, this is a true email expert specializing in Braze. They didn't fall off the truck last night. But you don't list all the other ones until you apply for the, if you're in a survival mode, having to apply for marketing automations that uses one of those other technologies, you're going to switch out the tech you talk about. You don't just throw a resume with 10 email technologies out there.
Yeah. And that's what I was doing to show the diversity. It's a logical play. Like, it's a great way to show experience, is to show all of the experience that I have. It wasn't getting me anywhere.
Yeah.
And this is gonna end with a really wild punchline, which I know you know, but it's still one of the just craziest things to me since 2024. But I'll get to it. So what I ended up doing was I switched my tactic. Again, I stopped fighting against the keywords for just a general email developer position. I was like, all right, I know Braze is new. I know that I know it's ramping up. I know I'm going to get some pretty big companies in on this, because that's an enterprise level type of company. So I'm going to shift my focus purely to it. That doesn't mean I shut everything else down, but it meant that I put Braze very front and center. Yes. So I had 10 years of email marketing, 3 years in Braze.
Yes.
Experience in specific tools that I knew Braze uses. So I turned off experience in developing customer journeys and turned on experience using Canvas, Braze's specific tool to create customer journeys, and Liquid, and things that any company, any manager, hiring manager who actually was using Braze, because no company look for an email developer is also trying to figure out what tool they're going to use. Right. If they need a Braze expert, they want a Braze expert. And if they're looking for somebody in Braze, they know those terms. Canvas.
Did you just say Canvas? Let me stop, because this, I think, is important for people that are trying to craft these resumes or talk about themselves. Did you just say familiar using Canvas? Did you say experience developing customer journeys with Canvas?
I actually flipped it and said experience using Canvas to develop
customer journeys. Okay.
On a quick skim, I wanted the word Canvas to be in front of my 3-word buzzword of what this is.
Got it.
I mean, you and I have talked about, I don't like not using the experience lines of your resume to just explain what the job was.
Yeah.
It's not a thing that I personally like doing. Like, if you already know the job description.
I don't like anyone to do that.
So. Yeah, like, again, ChatGPT, right? Yeah. So I switched I focused on very specific technology. I focused my job search on just like Braze specific like find me the bullet point that says looking for these technologies and then especially Braze. And I got infinitely more success. And I would maybe suggest that in the searches, well, ChatGPT can whip up Braze, iterable, Clavio, whatnot, but it's not going to spit up those specific features of the platform I'm trying to specialize in. I think that's where I got to really shine, because I would get reached out to with recruiters if we're looking for somebody who's good with Liquid, not with Braze, with Liquid. And I made sure to stick that on. That's the syntax for dynamic publishing, by the way. There's a coding language that Braze uses. It's actually Shopify's language, but whatever. But making that switch, I even put on my LinkedIn headline, like Braze certified 5 times. Like it's one of the first words is Braze certified. I went all in. Everything else was fluff. And after starting in 2024, I've had a couple of little shorter contracts. I've got a couple of projects I work on now. Not one of them I actually applied to.
So you went from 10 months of unemployment when you were trying to be the strategic combo platter with
general email marketing, lifecycle marketing, general
to fully employed inbound. In some cases, like, do I remember right? You've had periods where you were a little bit overemployed too. You had
I had 3 contracts stacked at a time.
Yeah. That's a lot, guys. Way to go.
There's a lot. Maybe don't do that, but also I needed to catch up from 10 months. I will put in 80, 90 hours a week.
You were a contractor too. That's your prerogative. That's your workload.
If you can handle the workloads, then go for it. Just
that's critical, because a lot of what people are trying to do, they're trying to simultaneously get people to come in inbound, but they want to have their LinkedIn or their resume speak to everyone, especially their LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is hard because you can't have 2 or 3 versions of your resume. You can only have one. You have to make a lot of decisions with that.
I got shredded with that. I also got shredded with doing the short-term contracts. That's something I learned. I think you helped me on that one in a random chat of grouping all of my.
Yeah, did I tell you to group them together
group them together as freelance?
Yeah.
Because I would get booted out because I look like a job hopper.
Oh,
these are short-term contracts, guys. So
here's another tip. I really discourage people from using the term freelance unless there's a specific reason to. I consider it a word to avoid.
It's fair.
In these cases. Consultant is much better.
Are you fine with even just contractor?
Contractor is better than freelancer.
It's fair.
The only thing that is less respected than freelancer is VA, because the term VA is virtual assistant is so bastardized.
It's like instructional designer. It doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so you went to all inbound. You ended up being fully employed. Did you also find that your salary that you could command, or your hourly rate or your salary or whatever, did that also go up, or was it more of a matter of I can get the opportunity because once somebody wants to talk to me, I can land the job? Talk to us about that.
Sure. So salary has always actually been pretty solid. And that's one of the luxuries of working for so many Fortune 500s. And I've also put down worked for a lot of Fortune 500s.
You're not scared to say all the places.
The value for me for something like that is people understand the stakes that I can handle. Like Fortune 500 is a lot of shakes. I'm sending out tens of millions of emails a day. Mistakes cost 7 figures.
Yeah.
So the salary is always pretty good. I wouldn't necessarily say I did have more opportunities to negotiate salary. How about I give you that?
That makes sense.
Because I knew that I was being reached out to because I pointed out very specific experience.
Yes.
And kind of proved my expertise in that platform by just talking to those keywords that are not auto-generate, they're not easy to auto-generate. Your Liquid, your Canvas, your segment, currents, alloys, tool specific, made it he really knows this stuff.
Really, I would also say that number one, I'm working on resumes and LinkedIn's every day for multiple technologies and industries and roles, and it's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
So what might have been the case a few months ago that, ChatGPT or insert tool of choice did not know about those submodules, now it probably does, or 3 months from now it will. The
Mhm.
combination of I used this thing that
Mhm.
supports this function. So Canvas that
Yeah.
supports what was it? Customer journeys.
Customer journeys, yeah, to create
Then
customer.
you can turn around and also layer in either in the same bullet or elsewhere in that work experience. And we did this.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
drove
I
growth.
did that in my cover letter of just like here's a bullet list of successes.
Yes.
And it was great. It worked wonderfully. I had another point that I was gonna add to that. Now I don't remember what it was. Oh, it might have been a good one.
We can do it again. I have a feeling that this will not be the last time that you and I spout off on a live stream on the internet. So
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, it made it very easy for people to see. Oh, he knew his stuff. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. This is also a little bit dark. I think that in the salary conversation, I did get a little bit of the benefit of the garbage hire. When you have so many people who are coming through, you might have some people who are a little inexperienced. I had a number of those contracts that I ended up getting where I was replacing somebody who
wow.
they brought in recently who was not nearly as good as their resume made them out to be. So it made it very easy for me to come in. Again, I win because I'm already using the terms that other guy was bad at.
Right.
And I already knew that. I already knew he was going to be bad at it. So I can come and be like, I know exactly how to fix these things. And I'm happy to share some of that in the interview just to prove that I've got the chops. But the rest you're paying for.
Right.
And it was a ton of instilling confidence. Not just that I understood what the issue was, but that I could go in and be real fast to identify and
Yes.
work and partner with those teams to be like, I am going to guide you out of the muck that you're in because you had a hire that struggled.
Yeah. I love talking about that because so many people, I did an interview prep with a guy who actually is an L&D leader just yesterday, and he's kind of about halfway through the process for a job in the gaming industry, which he's
Cool.
not a gamer. He came from other tech and whatnot. Like, he has no problem with gaming, but he's not like, oh my God, it's my goal to work at this company. He's like,
I had that dream one day.
he wants to work, he wants to add value in an industry. This is an opportunity that the culture seems really great. And he DM'd me and said, hey, can we chat? I have this type of interview. I need you to help me sound smart. And I was like, no, we're going to simplify.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, we're going to simplify and be clear, because the main thing that people walking into an interview trying to look smart, or the people that are listing 10 email technologies or 23 programming languages or what have you, is that they're muddying the waters. And I'm a big fan of, if you're trying to, like, number one statement is clarity is king in all things related to branding and marketing. And number two is, if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one.
Right.
So you basically just shed all that nonsense, put it all aside in favor of clarity.
So I actually had a decent solve for something like that. This is the way that I've approached it in my interviews. When if you have a ton of experience, it's not my advice. You can speak truth to it. I did have all of this experience with all of these other tools and all these other teams. I didn't exactly want to throw that away.
No.
So the way that I framed it in those interviews, where I am coming in for a very specific goal, was I've had the luxury of working with a bunch of different platforms and a bunch of different teams, which means I've grown very adept to seeing different processes and seeing how different pieces of the puzzle come together for a common goal. And I've gotten very good at maneuvering different configurations of this.
Right.
And I leave it there. I just leave it there. And that ultimately means that I'm incredibly adaptable. I'm very quick to learn. I've gotten very good at relationship building because the goalposts are always moving. The rules are always changing. And that is the only time that I really bring in all of those other tools, technologies, the smorgasbord of contracts. And it actually, I'm not struggling.
I
using
love
that.
that you said this because there's a whole different dynamic going on. And what you just talked about can help in any industry. So here's what's going on. I work with tons of product managers
Mhm,
because I spent almost a decade doing product adjacent things. And there is, as the economy has got, or the job market in tech has gotten weirder, there's been more companies saying that they want all this product management skill
mhm,
and umpteen years in industry. The
mhm.
best product managers I know are industry agnostic. So there's a lot of people that are like, I want to make a pivot out of the biggest one I hear is ad tech, because ad tech is like, that's just,
It's rough, yeah.
it's very rough. And it's commoditized too. So that's
Mhm.
not a really fun place to be. And people say, how the heck do I get out of this? Because everybody wants 5 years of experience in the next thing. And what you just did is basically a real world practical example of how you talked about a thing I coach my clients that they should go for, which is to bill yourself as an adaptable learner.
Mhm.
And it's weirdly easier to do that when you've worked in two other industries than when it's been only one. So if
Yeah.
you've been in two or three industries, you can say, I learned health tech and I learned fintech and I learned gaming. If you're only trying to go from ad tech into something else, the story is a little bit harder, but it's still the same story. So thank you for sharing that because that's going to help a lot of different people.
Yeah,
Um,
the whole idea behind strategic combo platter was to show diversity in expertise, and I don't think it ever actually worked. I think it became a fluffy little fun little word.
I almost took it out of your bio actually, because I knew that you were moving away from that, but I
I
wanted
don't
to
mind people like
about
I
that.
thought it was cute. Again, it's fun when I'm able to get the interview, and
Yeah.
I'm very conversational, so I get to say it's like I'm a strategic combo platter, and it's kind of like a throwaway phrase, but it's definitely it's not what I should really be sharing on the first date. Um,
Well,
but
it's kind of like me saying I'm a no BS career coach. Like it's true, but people don't hire me for that. They look at my profile because
yeah,
they
exactly.
follow me for God, sometimes years, and then they hire me.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I still have fluffy language. Like my first words are empathetic innovator in marketing execution, but then I just go straight into Braze certified. Well,
yeah,
my headline's a little fluffy, but also I have 5 times Braze certified as the first thing in there. I
yeah,
want
you're
to get some of
fine.
my darn personality in there.
You are fine.
Um,
I,
Everything else still points to specific terms, specific tools, specific tech, and then using the muddied waters of my career as a superpower.
yeah, I think that that's really. I dealt with a lot of that. So I know a lot of people that had early in their career they had a recession. So for
Mhm.
me, I had the dot-com bubble bursting. Some people that are a few years younger than me, it was like the Great Recession. And figuring out how to take instability and turn it into a superpower is a really great thing to do. For me, I ended up working across multiple industries.
Mhm.
So it was easy for me to play adaptable and I can learn. And, I had true consulting at the beginning of my career. And
Mhm.
so I was honestly able to say to people, you get your highest value out of me in the first 2 years I'm in a role. I
Yeah.
need to transfer within 2 to 3 years to start working in a different function or go to a different company to maximize what I'm greatest at. I
Yeah.
want to turn our attention to, I have a couple of little like lightning round ish questions, and then I want to let people, well, we've got your LinkedIn up. If there's anything else you want to tell people about opportunities you're interested in, etc., and then we can end there. So my first question is, what is the worst piece of career advice that you've ever received?
The worst piece of career advice that I ever received was if you do really well at this job, you're gonna get promoted.
Oh, yes. Well,
That
let
is not a thing.
my work will speak for itself. That
Uh,
one, yeah,
no. And I've been enough of a victim to things like the Peter Principle to know that I don't always want somebody who's good at their job to get promoted.
yeah,
For those of you who don't know the Peter Principle, that is getting promoted to the point of incompetence, where the skills that got you to the promotion are no longer useful for the job you currently hold. That
yes,
is when your big tech guys who are all about awesome coding become people managers, and all they know how to do is code and not be people managers.
right, yes.
Uh, yeah,
Ev-
I hate that. I hate that advice.
what is a personal habit you have that's made a big difference in your life?
Oh man, a personal habit. Can I go with mannerism?
Sure.
Okay. As you can tell, I'm very animated in how I talk. It comes across it can come across very unprofessionally depending on who I talk to. And I've gotten very good at maneuvering how I speak and how I discuss and how I use my words, without necessarily throwing away that personality and still being
Right.
able to succeed somewhere.
You know,
Oh man, that was a challenge.
you know how to
That
dial
was
it.
I've learned how to dial it. I think the greatest thing was, I told you at the beginning, I got fired from Constant Contact because I did not know how to speak this way. If I were to go back and do my career again, that's the one thing I would not change. I needed to fail so hard in that in order to recognize, like, okay, I can still talk this way and bring in personality, but I need to know how to stay in my lane. I need to know how to respect time, respect need. If I want to throw in a little banter, a little wit, a little self-deprecation, if I want to throw in a little something to ease the mood and disarm,
Yeah.
what I love is disarm.
I do
Situation, I need to.
and the older I get, it doesn't play as well. I think in 10 years I'll hit another age marker where I can do it again. But I'm not in a corporate setting. I can do it in my current business. But there's a really cool person I've been following for a while on LinkedIn and TikTok that talks about some of this stuff. Her name is Grace McCarrick.
Mm.
And she nominally does soft skills for Gen Z or soft skills
Oh boy.
leaders. But I'm a Gen Xer going, God, I wish I would have had you 20 years ago. And so she talks about things like how to bring what does polish look like? What does professionalism look like? What are high performers actually concerned with and not concerned with? What are the hills that they're dying on? It's pretty cool. So I'd check.
So this kind of goes all the way back to where I said trust is so important and why it's so important. I don't think I can say I'm confident being kind of the animated, goofy person I have in any company that would not trust my ability to get things done.
Yeah.
So I can come like I talk with senior vice presidents now, and I come in and I say, here we go. And that is how I will start a meeting that might be a little bit rough, because there's enough trust that I've been able to instill and enough confidence in my abilities that when I can say something like that, they don't look and be like, oh, he's just going to not take this thing seriously.
Yeah.
I've proven that I know what I'm doing. I can come in and they trust that I'm going to be able to figure this out. So I get a little bit of leeway and flexibility on how I communicate it. That takes work. That whole thing about, everything we just talked about, speaking to specific skills and whatnot, none of it works if you don't come in with a ton of confidence. If you sound like you're bumbling through why having so much diversity is a superpower, it really looks like you don't actually know what you learned.
It sounds like you don't believe that the bullshit you're selling, to be very honest. And then they don't trust you because it's like, I'm trying to get you to buy a product that you don't even believe in yourself. So
I genuinely feel like all of those experiences helped me get to where I am now. And I'm very confident when I say that. Same with being quirky as a superpower. I disarm very well, but it's because I come in with so much confidence for why we're there. I know when to buckle down and actually get work done, that I've been able to turn the silliness of me into something that gets people really absorbed and engaged in solutioning. And I never lose sight that we are here to solve. We are here to do better.
I talk about there's so many different workplace situations that people bring to me, and they're trying to figure out, how do I turn this into something that is more positive, more collaborative, like whatever the more that they want is and the less struggle. And almost always it boils down into some version of, you need to get everybody on the same side of a mission instead of it being you versus Mary. Or you versus a competitor. Like, what is the mission here? Okay, we're trying to achieve these customer satisfaction targets, these revenue targets, maintain these values, whatever it is. Get everybody on board with it.
I think that's where the art of disarming really comes in handy.
Yes.
Everybody comes in with their own different expectations. I'm going to pull you down to my level in a simple way, and then we're going to all move in the same direction together. Yes. I did it during training. That's how I did it during training. I've been able to do it in speaking to bigger names. At the end of the day, they want number go up.
Yes.
Numbers go up. Cool. Let's make the numbers go up.
By how much and how is it going to help us? So the last question I have for you before we close is, what is something you've changed your mind about recently?
Oh boy.
I stole this directly from Adam. I love his podcast, and it's one of my favorite questions he asks.
What is something I changed my mind about recently? Gosh. It could be anything, or should it be
anything?
I don't even know if I have anything outside of probably like work related. That one's really hard.
Sorry. That's why I said it's like kind of lightning, but not.
kind of lightning, but not. I mean, I guess the entire how I approached my career.
I mean, really, the whole episode, I think, maybe is the answer to your question, right? To this question. Now that I think of it. So my bad question for today. So
no, it's actually, you know what? I'm gonna we'll end on a fluffy note here.
Let's do it.
We'll end on a fluffy note. A sappy little story. Just play the violin music in the back. Changed my mind. Something I changed my mind on recently, and this is really the result of just the last 2 years, has been that I have been my own worst enemy.
Realize that you have been your own worst enemy.
I've changed the idea that I've been my own worst enemy throughout my career. When you're unemployed for 10 months, by month 4, 5, 6, 7, you start looking at everything you do and saying that you're the problem.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that you're not doing you could still be doing some things wrong. See 6 months job instead of batch. Like there are some little tangible things. But there was that big hesitation of, is this my personality? Maybe I, you know, all the imposter syndrome stuff that comes in. And I put a lot of that pressure on, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Especially when you're changing jobs, you're like, maybe this is the wrong job. Maybe this is the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
And I became my own worst enemy. I'm not good enough for this. I'm not putting this together. And it really was just changing tactic, changing for every single thing that we've talked about, and every single thing that I think you talk about ever is just a change in verbiage.
Yeah.
Change your approach. It's change in how you sell yourself and put yourself out in the world. And I stopped thinking that if it's not working, it's some inherent problem with me.
Yeah. I think that they're one of the biggest things that I talk a lot about, and a lot of times people, they use this advice the wrong way for a little while till they get grounding in it. Talk a lot about understanding what you can and can't control. And the only thing that you control is what's going on between your two ears, which when you kind of get to the point that you grok that, it's so powerful. But almost everybody goes through a period in the middle where they're like, well, then I'm terrible. Like all these things are happening because I'm terrible and I'm trying to control me. And it's really nuanced what you can and can't control when we parse through things. So, well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad that you feel better about Joey.
Yes, I feel better about me. I've also been so blessed with some of the jobs that I've had in that stretch where I did get to prove to myself that I'm a badass. And I have no problem saying that. There's so much of this, like maybe you come across as too cocky, but at the end of the day, if I'm in a room where numbers need to go up, being able to come in confidently, like I made numbers go up and I feel real good about it, that does so much more. And that's another one of those like worst enemy things of like, maybe I'm too full of crap. Maybe I'm putting too much pressure on like one or two things and nobody actually cares. Maybe I'm not nearly as accomplished as I thought I was. All those little psychological crap tactics.
The real deal is you have a lot of things that you've done and different people are going to care and need different things of it.
Yeah. And I think honestly, shaping all of that into different work experiences, I've worked with a whole bunch of different processes and I can adapt to it. I think that's really kind of what the solve was for all of that. I'm not just a muddy mess of experiences that don't form one single tangible thing. I'm a muddy mess of experiences that make a tapestry of insanity that I can make whatever the hell I want. Show me what's wrong with your business. I know how to fix it.
Well, Joey, thank you so much. I've got your LinkedIn up on the screen if people want to find
Yeah,
you.
say hi, connect. I'm more than happy to connect.
You're trying to other than keep it going with your current cool projects, there are any other things that you're working on? Or
I'm working on being a dad. I've got a 2-year-old. I've got an almost 2-year-old. That's that. I've also, 2024, catching up for 2023. I was triple stacked. I was working my butt off. So honestly, all I'm working on is trying to get to normalcy.
Nice.
And I'm fine with normalcy. I don't need anything new.
Write a book or develop your own AI-based SaaS platform, which is, I swear, I know 5 people that are doing both of those things right now.
I am writing, but that's just like, it's a fun for me project. It's not like a work. I'm done. I'm not going to do the self-help thing, but there is that, I busted my butt so much. I'm trying to go back to just enjoying free time. We were joking of like not working should also feel good. I'm also working on that. And that is a much more important project than anything else I'm working on right now.
I've seen pictures of baby girl and she's adorable. And so I can fully understand wanting to hang out with her way more than you got to last year. Thank you so much, Joey. This was amazing. And I appreciate you coming on Work Should Feel Good.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. This also felt good.
Oh, I'm glad.
Podcasting felt good.
Feels good. Great.
There we go. Numbers go up.